his greatest legacy is that his ability to be able to tap into the zeitgeist, always begun something, and his restlessness to move on from biokinetic art to starting a dance company and bringing so many different people in collectively and communally, and that became quite iconic in the 60s. My name is Adam Nankervis. I'm an artist and a curator. Pleasure of meeting and bonding very quickly with the artist David Medalla in New York City in 1990. We've been collaborating for the last 29 years on many different projects, whether it be our own founded Montreal fan club, to different landmarks, whether it be in Hawaii at Diamond Head or at the Empire State Building in New York. David's oeuvre is it's multifarious, and he's always stood at the vanguard, the avant-garde of so many different movements from the 1960s onward. When he was a boy here in Manila, Philippines, he was spotted as a potential genius. He was a 12-year-old boy. He was translating Shakespeare into Tagalog. He had multifarious interests. By the time of 11, he was a boy wonder.
My art is a reflection of my ideas about reality. There can be memories, remembrances, or projects, getting involved in something and getting away from something. That's how I describe my art.
2 years ago, David had a minor stroke which wasn't properly diagnosed, and I took him to Berlin to care for him. Then the decision was to come to the Philippines to do a project in Singapore at the National Gallery there. And unfortunately, Dave had a stroke this time last year. Every day you see this one, one sec, Dave. This one he drew this morning. And these are plans for the Philippine Art Fair of a sand machine. He drew yesterday. He's always very multifarious, but what I've noticed in the strings since the 1950s to the present is the homage to different poets, to people that David really truly admires. David was bringing his sort of Philippine roots into sculptural formation by creating biokinetic art, an art that was set in motion. It was harnessing really the energy, and it was based in science and spirituality and in the kind of the cosmic energies that could be harnessed and actually be distilled in one work of art. And it was very avant-garde at that time. At Stitching Time, David, in 1967, had given two lovers 2 handkerchiefs and a needle and 2 bobbins of cotton separately. And what David had done had stitched his name into both of the handkerchiefs and gave them to 2 different lovers going their different ways. And a year later, he was in Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, in Holland. He saw this on the backpack, a really beautiful trinket and embroidered piece of fabric. And so he approached the man and said, "Do you mind if I look at it? It's really beautiful." He said, "No." And when he was looking, he saw his name on the handkerchief, David. And he realized that that handkerchief that he'd given this one particular lover had traveled through the world, and people had been passing it on and passing it on. And so therefore he created a long piece of fabric with cotton spools above, which he'd found in the abandoned warehouses, and had the cotton drop onto the canvas. And so the idea was that this is where he also was one of the pioneers of participation art, that the individual could come and stitch a personal motif or a souvenir from their pocket or a button from their shirt and leave a personal trace of their own onto the fabric. And then the fabric would become its own testimony to time and place, whatever was sewn onto it. Over the years, since 1968, it's had many incarnations. It's been brought back and reanimated and reinstalled. everywhere from the Venice Biennale 2017, a giant 30-metre, and here in the Philippines it'll be much more intimate because of the space. This is a painting done by David, a self-portrait that he did in Santiago de Chile. And as you can see, there is a lot of text, and there's more text on the back. Every day since I've known him, he's a flaneur and always takes a sketch pad with him, and daily does sketches of either himself or incidental scenes. It's really difficult for me personally, being so close to David. I don't think you can really pinpoint it to one thing, but I mean, like, there is the bubble machine that's iconic. The London Biennale is known throughout the world, and so there are different movements, there are different works which are definitely David Medalla's signatures. But the Filipino within him is always carried forward. David always is true to himself, and he will move ahead with his own desire to recreate. You can always find something very deeply Filipino.